Hello and welcome to a new episode of the iPad Lettering Show, where it is my job to bring you the latest reviews and tutorials about everything and anything iPad lettering related. I'm super excited because I just received the brand new 6th generation iPad. It is a 9.7 inch iPad, which is smaller than my normal iPad Pro that I'm normally using. But it's the first non-iPad Pro that works with an Apple Pencil. So let's dive straight in and have a look at how it compares to my other iPads and whether this iPad is suitable for iPad lettering. Now, this is my whole collection of iPads, and let's just go through them one by one, and I'll explain a little bit about the features and how they differ from each other. So this one is a really old iPad Mini 2. This was first released in 2013, and I think it's the oldest iPad that still supports iOS 11. This iPad doesn't work with the Apple Pencil, and so I won't actually include it in today's review because it's not really an iPad that I recommend for iPad lettering. I just wanted to show it. And then the next one here, this is the new 6th generation iPad. It's not an iPad Pro, it's a normal iPad. I just received it today. It was released this week. And this iPad is, let me have a look. This is so if we go up to General and then About. So it has 32 gigabytes of storage capacity. This is a Wi-Fi only iPad, and after I've installed some apps, I've installed 6 apps, and you can see also it's synchronized with my iCloud account. It's got 715 videos, 6,338 photos, and it has still got 24 gigabytes of storage available, which is pretty good if you think about it. So first thing I've done, of course, is install the Procreate app and just have a little look to see how it works. So now let's try it out and have a little look. So opening up the Procreate app, it's pretty fast. So I've tried out some of my watercolors. This is my watercolor template. Let's just go to the gallery to see how quickly the canvases open. So I tap on a canvas and it loads pretty quickly. This is a canvas that has maybe 7 or 8 layers, so it's not too big, but it's not that small either, so I'm actually quite impressed with the performance. It doesn't take too long to bring up this canvas, which is pretty cool. So now let's have a quick look. So I'm going to choose the Watercolor Calligraphy brush just to see how this performs comparing to my other iPads. I'm going to have a look at the other iPads in a second, but let's just try out this new iPad because we've got it right here. So with the Watercolor Calligraphy brush, the way this works is that at the start it creates quite a dark stroke, and then it sort of, as the color runs out, it becomes a little bit lighter. As you can see here, the more slowly I create my stroke, the more it sort of fades out. Then I can go fast again. So it's not 100% smooth, but it definitely creates nice thick and thin strokes, and the effect looks pretty similar to the way it looks on my iPad Pro. Now you can see here I'm already running out of space, so let's see. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger and then see if I can write something. So one of the things you notice here is that my hand kind of goes outside the screen, which is something I'm not used to. I normally have my hand or my wrist completely on the screen. So it's definitely possible to write like this. It's not something I'm 100% comfortable with just because I'm used to the bigger screen. But now let's try some other brushes. Let's maybe have a look at these practice sheets just to see how it works with these. So I'm going to create a new layer and then change my color to pink and maybe choose a different brush. So now let's see, I'm going to choose the brush script brush and see how this works. And if I wanted to just trace these letters, If you're curious about these practice sheets, you can actually get them from my shop, and I will add a link to this video in the description if you're interested. Okay, let's try another brush. One of my favorite brushes is the modern calligraphy brush. So let's see how this works. And it's pretty good. So it's definitely possible to create the thick and the thin strokes, and you can see I'm pressing quite hard now, and it creates a really thick stroke and then a really thin stroke as well. So all in all, I think the performance of the Apple Pencil with this iPad is actually really good. Just going to try a few different strokes just to see how it performs. It's not too bad. Now let's try another brush. One of my all-time favorite brushes is the dual sand brush. That creates quite nice texture, so let's just make it a bit smaller. See how that goes. So this is quite smooth. This brush works really well on slower devices, so even if you want to use it with the iPad mini, this brush works actually quite nicely. So yeah, so this is not bad. Not, you know, it's not 100% the same as the other iPad Pro, but let's have a look what the difference is. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside now. And then this now is my first generation iPad Pro, and I need to connect it to my pencil first. So I'm just going to pair it and see how this goes. It should come up and tell me, yes, I'm going to pair it. Okay. Let's check the battery as well real quick. So 35%, yep, that's plenty for what we want to do. And then let's open Procreate. So now let's do a similar test. Let's open up our practice sheets and just to see what the difference is. So I'm going to choose the same color and then the same brush as well. So I'll choose, let's see, I'm going to choose I don't have the same brushes on this iPad. Alright, so we need to improvise. Let's see what brushes we have. I have this dual sand brush, so that's a good start. Let's try it with this one. And you can see the zoom. It's not bad. It's not quite what I'm used to. This is a bit too thick. And that's too thin. And straight away, I'm more comfortable with this iPad just because the screen is a lot bigger. So it's kind of nice to be able to rest my whole wrist and my whole hand on the screen. So I prefer this. And also it's nice because I can see a little bit more what's on the screen. So now I want to just see if I have another brush that I could use that's similar to the one we've had just before. There we go. Modern Calligraphy is here. So let's try this one. And I feel this is a touch more responsive than on the previous iPad. Ever so slightly. It's probably not noticeable in the video, but from a feel point of view, I think this is slightly faster, slightly more responsive to the previous iPad. Okay, now let's compare the screens as well in terms of resolution. So I think they are pretty similar. This is just a different, slightly different temperature of this screen, but I think the resolution is really nice. It's very clear. You can, it's not pixelated at all. Beautiful Retina screen, definitely not a problem there. And the same with this iPad. So I think in terms of the screen performance and the resolution, this is very comparable. So I wouldn't prefer one over the other. So these two to me are quite similar in the performance, in terms of speed, in terms of lettering with the iPad. I just really prefer the bigger screen because of the way I can rest my hand on the screen. And maybe it's also because I'm used to using the bigger iPad. Alright, now let's have a look at the 2nd Gen iPad Pro, which I have here as well. So I'm just going to swap them around. And you can see as well my OCD-ness. I have to have all the same iPads with the same colors. I like getting the white iPads for some reason with the silver back. So they're all white iPads with the silver back. Alright, and now let's have a look at the 2nd generation iPad Pro, which is the 12.9 inch as well. With this iPad, I have chosen to go with the 256GB version. So let's have a quick look and in general about. So this one here has 716 videos, 6,300 photos, 160 applications, and the capacity is 256GB, of which I still have 103GB available, which is actually pretty good because if we look at Procreate, so let's have a look at Procreate, let's go to the gallery, and you'll see in my stack that I have lots and lots of canvases. So this would probably be about 1,000 canvases, and I still have over 100GB of space available. So 256GB is plenty of space. My 1st Gen iPad Pro that I've showed you just before has 128GB of storage, and I think that one has about 40GB free, which I think is still really good. So 128GB is definitely plenty of storage as well. I went for the bigger one here because there's going to be more canvases, I'm going to be making more videos, and so I think I just don't want to run out of space. So having a little bit more, I think, is just for future-proofing myself. So now let's load the practice sheets again. And you can see here, these are really snappy. So these load quite a lot faster than on the other iPads, which is really nice and makes a big difference to me as well. So now let's do some lettering here. So I'm just going to try out this brush, and you can see how there is a lot more detail in the brush here, and it's a lot smoother. And I feel that it just picks up the slight nuances in my pressure that I put on the iPad. It just picks that up a little bit more than it did on the 9.7 inch iPad. Now, just as a comparison, let's use the Modern Calligraphy brush as well, which is one of my favorites, so it should be in my favorites brush set. Yes, it is. And let's just see what this looks like. So this is a little bit thick, so make it a bit thinner, and then see. And this feels just quite a lot nicer. So definitely definitely a huge improvement. Now, what I wanted to show you as well, just quickly, is the difference in the screen, which I was actually quite surprised because I don't think there is a big difference in the two screens. I feel that the resolution of the screen is actually really nice and definitely comparable to my 2nd generation 12.9 inch iPad Pro. Now, the big question, of course, which iPad should you get? To me personally, there's no question. I would always go for the 2nd Gen iPad Pro 12.9 inch. Couple of reasons. Obviously, speed makes a big difference to me. Sometimes I have large canvases with many layers, and having to wait for them to load can be a little bit annoying, especially if I'm switching between canvases, grabbing elements from one canvas and wanting to put it on another canvas. It's super handy to have the faster iPad. And then also the screen size, to me, really makes a huge difference. I just love having the big screen. It's almost like a piece of paper. I can rest my whole hand on the iPad, and to me it's more comfortable to use this way. I also like holding the iPad like this, and it fits perfectly in my arm like this. It's just, I can sort of cradle it this way, and it goes between my elbow and my hand, which is super comfortable, especially if I use it on the couch or on the plane or anywhere where I don't have a table. With this one here, it's just, it doesn't fit like that, so you'd have to kind of hold it like this, and I don't find it as comfortable as having it sort of cradled in my arm. Then Obviously, a big question is the price, and that's where this iPad really shines. In the US, this is $329, which to me is a bargain. The pencil is $99, and so to me, if you're only getting started, if you want to try it out and you don't want to make too much of an investment, I definitely think this is a really, really good choice. It runs all your apps, it runs the latest version of iOS and Procreate, and it's nice and light, and you can still use the Apple Pencil. So definitely, if you are just thinking of getting into iPad lettering and maybe wanting to try it out without spending all the money on the big iPad Pro, this small iPad is I definitely recommend it. But if you're a little bit more serious, especially if you're running a business and if you are working with the iPad a lot, or if you plan to work with the iPad a lot, I definitely think the bigger screen is the way to go. I find it more comfortable to use, especially if I use it for a long time. And yeah, so I really, really recommend the second generation iPad Pro, also because of the speed. And it'll probably last a bit longer than one of the older ones. Now, having said that, if you want the bigger screen, but you might not want to spend all the money on the second generation iPad Pro, I actually think the first generation iPad Pro is still a really, really good choice. You get the benefit of the big screen. And also with these iPads, Apple sometimes sells them on their refurb store, so definitely make sure that you check out that. Usually you can find it on the apple.com website, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, and then there will be a specials or sales depending on which country you're in. It'll have a link there, and in New Zealand it's called refurb store. I think in the States it's called specials, so you might have to have a little look, but they sell these at the discounted price. And refurb means that the internal components of the iPad have been refurbished, but the outside is still brand new. So it feels like a brand new iPad, but you get it cheaper. You still get all the warranties, and the internal components might have been reused. Like, for example, the RAM or the processor might be a second-hand one, but it still comes with all the same warranty as a brand new one. So if budget is a concern, if you still want the bigger screen, then refurbished first generation iPad is a really good choice. If budget is not a concern, if you want the latest and the greatest, go for the second generation iPad Pro. And if you're only getting started, if you're not quite sure whether iPad lettering is for you or not, then the new iPad 9.7 inch is a really, really good choice as well. Alright, hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to add some links to the description of this video so that you can find the practice sheets and the brushes that I've showed you in this video. And make sure to subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.